want to thank my daughter Tanya for this story I'm going to bring to you. She sent it to me this morning. It's about a 21-year-old homeless woman, Dani Johnson, who made a meager living as a cocktail waitress in Hawaii and was living out of her car with just $2.03 to her name and $35,000 in debt. She was haunted by a childhood filled with brutal and systematic physical and sexual abuse. She attempted suicide following a cocaine binge, but in that moment, ironically, her life changed forever. Today, Dani Johnson is a multimillionaire many times over, runs 5 companies, and spends her time jetting around the world giving back through her various charities. Now, how she went to make her first million, despite a tortured past and despite being homeless, is the stuff of entrepreneurial legend. It was Christmas Eve, 1990. She said, I was stoned out of my mind for 2 months, staying with different guys, knowing that they would at least feed me. My mom and dad were drug addicts, and I had never seen my parents sober. My childhood was filled with threats and getting beaten daily. My whole life was filled with horror and terror and lies, and I vowed that I would never be like my family. I realized, though, that I had become worse than the family I grew up in, and that was devastating, and there I was doing cocaine. That Christmas Eve, she joined other waitresses at the beach on a binge, and a drink and drug binge, and she says, I remember waking up at 10 the next morning on my beach mat, and I'm asking everyone for coke. I was walking around saying, where do I get more of that stuff? That day I would have done anything. I would have become a prostitute to get more coke. That's how low I had become. I hated everything about myself. I knew my future would never be good. I was suicidal from the age of 6 years old. There was no chance for me to turn my life into anything better. I was disgusting. I hated how my parents raised us. My life was filled with broken promises and lies and people beating me and people hating me and me hating myself even more. Fueled by the after effects of the drug and in an almost catatonic state that morning, Dani decided she was going to end it all. I walked towards the ocean and I dived underneath the waves. A few moments under, and her life would have ended there, and not a surprising demise given her circumstances, the coroner and police chief would have quietly concluded. But as it happened in that instant, her life changed forever. It was almost like a miracle. I heard a voice say, pick yourself up and walk. The feeling of coke left instantly. I wasn't wanting it anymore. I rolled up my beach mat. I turned around and hiked a mile in order to get back to my car. I drove 45 minutes to the beach house where I was staying, and the whole time I was driving, it was as if the left side of my mind was saying, this is not what's intended for your life. You shouldn't be drinking. You shouldn't be drugging. There's more to life. And the right side was saying, you're a failure. You're a loser. You're filthy. You're worse than your parents. Drive this car into the ocean. This was like a war going on inside my mind with these voices, and I was literally in a trance. And I have no idea why I chose to listen to that first voice. So she began to ask herself, what can I do? What do I need to do to get myself out of this situation? As a cocktail waitress, I was not making enough, so I had to figure out some options. She needed $4,500 to be able to afford an apartment with a small income derived mostly from tips. Coupled with the island's high rents, it would take her months to save enough money. I didn't want to be homeless for more months. Rent in Hawaii was outrageously expensive, and I couldn't afford plane tickets back to California. I knew no one other than the people I was hanging around with. I was terrified I'd be raped or beaten or kidnapped because there wasn't any shelter. I was a kid who between the ages of 3 and 16 was abused and molested. The emotions were still there. You try to push this back, but when you're homeless, it's at the forefront of your mind all the time, and it was terrifying to me. That night she fell asleep in her car without any answers, but the following day, the proverbial light bulb went off. I get this idea. Everything I owned was in the back seat of my car. And there was this weight loss program I had purchased long before I was homeless lying in the back seat. I had used it for a week, but I never paid any attention to it before, and it just caught the corner of my eye in the sun. It was warped from the humidity, but it was as if this device was talking to me. I picked it up, and as if this thing was saying, I'm your answer. And my first thought was, no, I'm not going to peddle a weight loss program. No way, I'm going to do this. As if it was beneath me. As if it was, I was sinking to a new depth, but I thought, how much worse can I get? than what I've been doing. And you know, sometimes you have that feeling that you need to do something you don't want to do. I turned the box around. I saw the manufacturer's detail. And I called them from a payphone. I asked them the question, what's it going to take to carry this product in Hawaii? As it turned out, it would require me to have licensing and money that I didn't have. And this is when Dani, given her scant means, decided to get resourceful. I hand-wrote a flyer for the weight loss program, but I needed a phone number to advertise so people could contact me, and I didn't have one. So I picked up the yellow pages in the phone book. You know, cocktail waitresses always have coins, so I looked through the yellow pages. So I called a small telecommunications company, and I chatted with this guy for some time, trying to build a relationship, and I asked him what the cost of their voicemail service was. He said, don't drive all the way to pay for this. Send me a check for $15. Here's your new number. Dani, of course, was elated. Down to her last quarter for the week, she got the break she needed. I put up the flyer at the post office where everyone in this town went to, and 3 hours later, not thinking I would get any messages, it was filled with 25 messages. I didn't know what to do with them. Long story short, I ended up with 40 checks totaling $4,000 from people I didn't even know that first month. I called up the manufacturer with the order, but they wanted a physical address to send the product, and I didn't have one. So I talked the local liquor store man into letting me use their address. Dani made $250,000 that first year just by selling that weight loss program. Was a millionaire by the second year. Went on to open up 18 weight loss centers around the country. She sold that business in 1996, becoming a multimillionaire. Today, Dani Johnson, that's spelled D-A-N-I, is one of America's great motivational, inspirational speakers and authors and philanthropists. She started King's Ransom, a nonprofit foundation dedicated to serving people and giving to those in need around the globe. She also donated to the Joy of Music School, which provides free music opportunities for underprivileged children. Specialty Space is run by a local woman who, along with her 9 children, relies on donations to help redecorate bedrooms for extremely sick children. And to the Love Kitchen, a food bank run by 2 82-year-old twin ladies who rely on volunteers to keep their community place running. She's also built 500 homes for the homeless in Nicaragua. Folks, listen to me. Every person, every company has to go through some kind of hardships in order to be able to appreciate their dreams when they happen. There's no such thing as a straight line directly to the top of anything. Sometimes it happens fast. For others, it takes longer. But I remember a statement from many years ago that goes like this. The road to success goes right through the city dump. And if you aren't ready to go through the bad stuff, to getting your shoes muddy, to getting your hands dirty, you aren't ready to go to the top. Think about this, folks. We, like Dani Johnson, are going to be doing something really big. We're going to be able to reach out and touch like she is to help change the lives and to bring hope to the lives of hurting people around the world. See, our joint effort bringing millions of us together is going to touch so many lives around the world as time moves on. And I hope you realize what a feeling it's going to be. Like for once it mattered. Like finally you realize that you're here on this earth for a special reason because you actually meant something to someone you didn't even know. Right now, you and I are going to go forward into a bright new future just as Dani Johnson did when she made that decision to start doing something about her situation. I want to thank you all for listening in today. You cannot teach what you do not know, and you cannot lead where you will not go. You've got to be willing to do it first in order to gain the trust and respect from your team. Thank you all for joining us today. Let's all go out there and make something really big happen. Talk to you later. God bless. Make it an awesome day. Bye-bye for now.